Welcome to part 2 of Manifesting a Non-Toxic Work Environment with Daniela Landherr. In part 1, we discussed how psychological safety is the bedrock of any non-toxic workplace. But once psych safety is built, how do you sustain it? Today, we're shifting gears to focus on the individual leader's journey, energy management, resilience, and the secrets to lead effectively while avoiding burnout. Welcome, and you won't want to miss this. Right.
Okay. So we're going to shift a little bit from the conversation about the manager as a doer and as the person who has to just be, right? So I kind of feel that we demand a lot from our managers, taking care of psychological safety, working with different kinds of cultures, within different kinds of cultures, bosses, teams that can be hostile sometimes. I'm very curious, and I'm curious about this also because I've burnt out as a manager, because my leadership wanted something from me, my team wanted something else. I was neither of those. I had a completely different opinion, and I didn't know which side to lean. So it was not. You're not able to bring your authentic self to work, and I was burnt out. So much so that I decided not to be a people manager for about 2 years at least. So my question is, if the manager is the one taking care of everyone else, who's taking care of the manager? And I'd love to get your thoughts on this, Daniela, and just from your experience of working with different managers and as a manager yourself.
We talk about psychological safety, and it's you're nailing it, Raji. It's really, this everything we do for others, everything we do as a manager, as a leader, to hold the space, to create the space, to make everyone perform, to drive results, to innovate, to you name it, have a vision, have a strategy, think long term, deliver short term. It's like all of the pressure. And sometimes I wonder, when people say, oh, I want to be a manager, I'm like, why? What makes you want to be a manager?
Exactly.
Like, it can't be all of these things,
Yeah.
So what is it? And sometimes I wonder if it's this illusion of power. I'm going to be more powerful, and I've seen in my experience, and so I'm sure so have you, I don't think everyone should be a people manager. And
Absolutely.
just because someone is good at something, like we've seen this in engineering organizations, I think for years, where, we would promote engineers who were really, really good at what they did. We said, you're so good at what you do, you're being promoted, and now we're giving you a team. Here you go. Here's 10 people, like, manage. And they hated it. They were like, I don't want to manage people. I don't want to do all this administrative people stuff that I have no clue about. I actually want to write code, and I want to be a programmer, or, whatever it is. And sometimes people get moved or pushed into this pressure without really genuinely wanting. It could be because someone else is pushing them, but it could also be just because they are under this illusion of, this is my next step, and to move forward, I need to move upward, and I got to be a people manager. And it's such an important question. When you are there, whether you've chosen to be there or you ended up there, it starts with you. It really starts with you. And unless, this might sound very hard, but unless you get your own shit together and you can handle yourself and manage yourself, you're not going to be able to manage a team. You're not going to be able to manage an organization and scale, if you're more senior, an entire company in a healthy way, because it starts with you, which means you got to do the hard work first. Before you ask other people how they are, ask yourself, how am I? And there's this framework that I love, which is called HALT, like just halt for a moment. So just halt for a moment and ask yourself, H, am I hungry right now? A, am I angry? So back to, Raji, what you were saying about anger, right? Am I angry right now? L, am I feeling lonely, left out right now? And T, am I tired? I had to think about that one. Am I feeling tired right now? And it's just a simple check-in to just see, like, these are 4 key elements that help me understand what kind of state am I in when I enter a room with one other person, 10, 50,000, 20,000. What am I bringing into the space? And it sounds so simple, But we don't do that. We don't, it's not part of our routine to check in with ourselves and ask ourselves, hey, how am I doing right now? What's going on with me right now? Or, why am I having these thoughts right now? What's happening? Where's this coming from? Like, we don't have this training of reflection, of going into our head and separating, the thoughts of what's flying in our head and taking that out and looking at it and just being for a moment like, what's happening right now? Not just with others and everybody else, and I need to analyze, but just starting with myself. Because if I know that I'm not okay, then I know that I will bring the not okay into the room I'm going in. And if I don't name that and I pretend everything's okay, well, guess what? People will pick up on it. Yeah. Maybe not everyone, but many people will pick up, like, don't talk to Daniela right now. She's in a bad mood. Don't ask her about a raise. Like, this is a bad moment to share X, Y, Z. People know that, and they talk about this. Like, they know when you enter the room, I remember we had a leader in Zurich. I hope he's not listening to this because he'll know who he is. But he had a red shirt. And every time he wore that red shirt, we knew, it was time. And it was just his, I guess we never asked him, right? We should have, but we never asked him. It was probably his color to like, today I'm going to announce a reorg, like I need my power shirt, my courage shirt, whatever that was. But that red shirt, it was just, and we all knew it. We all knew red shirt danger. And it's just, people notice these things. They notice the patterns. They are not stupid. A repetition of too often already is the beginning of the pattern. And people notice even before you notice. So unless you are thinking, hey, what am I doing repetitively? What am I thinking repetitively? What am I saying repetitively? That's your pattern. And unless you are aware, you could ask others because they are probably aware if you're not. They could probably say, here's what's in your blind spot, what you're not seeing, but we have figured out. It's so important to start with self. And that's hard work because starting with self, you can often not do by yourself. You need someone to help you with that. Someone to hold up a mirror. Someone who asks you questions that are uncomfortable, that you are even without answering them verbally, that you are thinking about.
Absolutely.
Becoming aware.
Yeah. I was just thinking, this sounds like either a self-coaching conversation or a conversation where you need a coach. Like a developmental coach, right? Like you don't have to be an executive to have a coach. You could be anyone. And you can start having the conversation.
Yes.
I remember I used to love being a manager coach at Google, and these are the kind of conversations you typically have. Like, I have to give this tough message to my team. Can you help me? And then it's not about the message. It's about how do you want to show up and the kind of manager you want to be then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that, when you master that, and master might be, I don't know if ever we master anything, to be honest, but I'm going to put it in the context of, okay, I'm aware and I'm applying it. That's enough. And that's already huge. If I'm aware that I am in my HALT, right, in my 4 things of hungry, angry, lonely, tired, if I know there's one of these that's kind of in the not green, yes, good, but like maybe orange or reddish, you got to name it. First, name it to yourself. Hey, I haven't gotten enough sleep. It's probably noticeable. I'm probably bringing something into the room. Name it. Come in and say, I had a really, a few difficult nights. I think I'm okay. But if you notice something, here's what's going on. And it's like, it's out in the room. There's no elephant that everyone's looking at and thinking something's happening, and we think we know what it is, but no one's talking about it. It's just by naming it. But it starts with naming it to yourself. And naming it to yourself is hard because often we're not aware. And that's why, like you said, a coach, sometimes even a partner, like my husband, he's really a curious person and he'll ask me things. He'll notice things. Like I remember when we started dating many years ago, he would notice when I had a different set of earrings. And I'm like, wow, you're really observant. And that curiosity that he has is helpful because sometimes, because I'm an executive coach myself, and I have a coach, not on a regular basis, but I'll do coaching again and again. And that's just such a helpful phase whenever I say like, okay, I need to work on myself again before I can go and help others.
Yeah.
It's that self-training, that self-regulation, when someone asks you the questions, hey, I would ask my clients, tell me when last time you were triggered that you really felt anger and you felt a physical reaction. They're like, ooh, can't remember. Like, I don't know, maybe in my childhood or, teenage years. I'm like seriously. And then when I think about it, because I work on that, this is I want to say like an expertise. I'm training myself in this. I've been doing this for years. And then sometimes I'll have my coach ask me, when did that last happen to you? And I think about it, and I'm like, yesterday. It doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It doesn't mean because I work on it, it doesn't happen. I got triggered yesterday. And my husband held up the mirror for me and I was like, thank you, because, and then now I'm at a point where I want to hold that moment and be like, okay, like hold it, just stop time for a second and like, what am I experiencing? What am I feeling? Where is it starting? Oh, I can feel it. For me, it starts in my belly, kind of belly area, and then it starts to rise. Really prominent in my chest. So I have a physical sensation that I can easily overlook if I don't pay attention. But if I pay attention, I can feel there's like this, it rises. It's like if I say volcano, it seems evident, there's going to be fumes and, something spewing out of her head. It's not visible because I'm trained. So you might not notice, right, but I notice and I'm aware and I can feel it's rising, and usually it's like prominent in my neck, and then I can feel it in my ears, like my ears get warm. And I am sure if I had my hair tied back, you'd notice, oh, her ears are a bit red. Some people, it's the face. I used to blush when I was younger. It's like I used to my cheeks would get reddened and my neck would get red, and that doesn't happen anymore because I've worked on it, I've trained it, so it's not visible anymore, but I notice it. And when that happens, I'm like, this is a trigger. I recognize you. Hi, trigger. Hello. Like, what are you trying to tell me? What's going on? And then you can separate it. And we're going a bit into deeper psychology here, but it's really being able to compartmentalize, to contain, to sit with it, not to run from it, not to like, oh, I'm uncomfortable, let me save the day and try and save this conversation and just say something to pretend like everything's okay. It's sitting with it and taking a moment and saying, hey, I just need a second. And then understand what's happening. If you can't do it in a meeting, then when you leave and you go home in the evening, take the time, 10 minutes, sit down, write it down. What did I notice? What did I notice? I noticed something in my belly. It rose through my chest. My chest really became prominent. I felt it like coming out through my ears. It's almost like, like in the cartoons when it steams through the ears. That's kind of the reaction I have. Probably different for you, different for other people. But we all have signs of how this shows for us. And if we choose to ignore it, again, we're in this moment between stimulus and response. If I choose to brush it off and pretend like nothing happened, I have missed such a great opportunity to learn, to get to know myself, of what's happening. Why is this happening? This reaction is biologically helping us. It's help. It's designed here not to disturb us. It's designed to protect us. It's designed to, something's going to happen. Here's all the blood in your legs, in your arms, wherever, so you can run up a tree and save yourself from the lion. It's designed to work to protect us. But in the meeting, I might not need the adrenaline. I might not need to run up a tree. I might just need some calm. So it's training to make a choice in that moment. So I often say, name it to tame it. Yeah. But you've got to start naming it yourself. And that goes back to, it was a long answer to what you pointed out about managers, but we got to start with ourselves and become aware. And journaling, I know people have written about it for years. Journaling is helpful because it's processing from what's in the brain through the hand, and not writing it on a laptop, but processing from what's in your brain onto a piece of paper and becoming aware of, hey, last time what triggered me was anger. The last 3 times it was sadness. Something shifted. Where's this coming from? Right. And when you notice, you can name it to others, and you can heal. That's when you can work with it, and that's when you can hold the space. There's no holding space if you can't hold your own space. Yeah. You got to hold your own space.
Totally. I love HALT as an acronym to check in on your own energy, because it covers not just the psychological, it also covers the physical, right? Like, physiologically, if you're
Yeah.
hungry, do something
Exactly.
about it, or you're
Yeah.
tired.
Yeah.
It could be physiological, you haven't slept enough,
Or you're
and
hangry.
you're
Exactly.
hungry, you're a combination of the itch
Combination of,
and
yeah.
Exactly.
yeah.
And hunger, like I find this such a funny one because hunger for different people can express itself in such
Oh,
extreme
totally.
ways.
Yeah.
When someone loses their patience when they're hungry, and when I hike with my husband, for example, like we choose to go on a day hike, and when we hike in the Swiss Alps, and sometimes the they're really long. You hike for 5 hours, 6 hours, and there's usually cute little restaurants on the mountains or whatever. But first, usually we start walking and he'll be like, hey, where are we stopping for lunch? And I know when he asks that question, he's hungry and I need to feed him within half an hour. And it's something I've just learned about him because he's going to keep asking the question more frequently. And then it's at some point, there's just this shift that's going to be like, now I need food. And then it could be, I'm willing to just run down the mountain or do something stupid or crazy because I'm hungry, because hunger can really, really drive behavior. And when you think about it, not in a context of a mountain and hikes, if you think about it in the work environment, there are people who are so stressed, who are running from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting, and you haven't had time to eat. You haven't had time to drink a glass of water. And you go into a meeting, it's unfair to yourself, of course, but it's also unfair to what you bring into that room. Because yes, you might be hangry by this time. You might be annoyed because you're hearing the same thing over. You have no more patience. You're just actually hungry. And that's where, what's really going on is you've got to do that halt for a moment, just check in with yourself. And it might be worth saying, hey, I'm 5 minutes late to the meeting. I need my bio break and I need to eat a snack. And it's just that self-care. It starts with self-care, like put on your own oxygen mask first on an airplane. It may sound counterintuitive, but it's so essential. Unless you are okay, you cannot hold others to be okay. You just can't. And so you got to start with yourself.
Yeah. The other related thought I had, just processing what you kind of covered, Daniela, and, your last point around you need to wear your own oxygen mask, it kind of brought me back to some of our earlier conversations around expectations and boundary setting, right? Because I feel like when it comes to managing your own energy, I would say most good managers don't have boundaries and very, very lofty expectations. At least that's how I process it. With the expectations piece, it's that you need to give every interaction or every activity that you're kind of leaning into more than 100%. And you probably don't need to even give it 100% in that particular situation based on what it is. And then on the other hand, I think as far as boundaries are concerned, you're so focused on meeting your team's needs that you don't necessarily draw that line and say, this is where my energy kind of gets tapped out. It almost feels like we need management in moderation on some level, whereas I feel like right now, for most managers, it's a pendulum. You're either a jerk, which is one end of the spectrum, or you're, all giving, which is the other end of the spectrum. So yeah, I mean, this totally resonates.
Yeah. And it's, listening to you, we need managers to be human.
Yeah.
And that needs to have space in an organization, because what are we doing, like Raji, to your earlier question too, what are we doing for managers to be okay?
Yeah.
Just by saying, hey, like I know at Google, like, hey, you can take a break and play some pool, or we've got free food, or you can go get a massage, but what are we doing to set boundaries, to say what are we tolerating as an organization and as a company? And I see that there's cultural differences for sure that I'm observing, like in some countries, for example, that I would perceive as more advanced. They're saying, I'm not going to respond to an email on the weekend. And I mean, I'm a founder, and I'm now, I lead my own company, and I see the difference when I interact with CEOs who have clearer boundaries and CEOs who don't, because I feel the need to adjust too. There are people who will email me on a Saturday and I feel like I need to reply on the Sunday. And there are people who just never email me on the weekend, and I don't email them on the weekend, and we get everything done throughout the week. And it's really, if you are role modeling that you have no boundaries, then the organization will have no boundaries. And that might be by design. Maybe you have a startup and you say, if you want to work here, you got to roll up your sleeves, you're always on. I'm thinking of Elon Musk, right? Kind of like what is publicly known about how he has led, right? He said, hey, why aren't there cars parked on a parking lot on Sunday? Where are all the people? Right? If that's the mindset, you know what the expectation is, and you can choose, do I want to be there or not? Do I want to be a part of that or not? You got that choice. Most people have that choice. So then don't complain. If you're saying, this is helpful for my career for whatever reason, whatever you choose, then go and do it for your 2 years or whatever. And you might be okay with that. You will find other ways to protect your boundaries. For me, it's really, we gotta give managers, leaders in organizations, ways that they can create boundaries, and that's okay. And some do that by saying, I don't know, no meeting Fridays, or there's various things that I find really helpful, like the emails are one of the things, or let's not CC everybody in an email. Like, I find that a very helpful one, like who actually needs to be CC'd, and it's okay to remove yourself from a meeting, it's okay to remove yourself from an email thread. Like that permission, that and named permission is something really helpful, where you're empowering people. You don't have to be the leader who always does that, but say, hey, let's have this basic norm on our team that if you're invited to a meeting where you feel you're not adding value, you're not gaining information, you're not getting any value, it's okay to remove yourself without explanation. Just leave a note of why you said no, a short note, and ask someone to fill you in if that's needed, and if not, great. So there's this risk taking that we haven't talked about that belongs to psychological safety, is we calculate in our brain, can I take this risk or not? Can I take the risk of not being in the meeting? Can I take the risk of removing myself from that email thread? Can I take the risk of sending this email only to my manager, or should I CC compliance and HR and the legal team and 50 other people just to be safe? So safety is always on the other side, is the fear, the fear of if I take the risk, what will be the consequence? That's the flip side. And the more fear there is in the organization, the more people will calculate, can I take this risk? And the risk calculation is often it's not conscious. It's a subconscious process of, can I say this or not, based on my experience. So it's data we've collected, and we kind of store in our gut whether I can say something or not. And based on that, I'll take the risk or I'll be silent.
I was just going to say, I think there are lots that an organization can do to support, and just from what you're saying, creating this, culture of letting managers have boundaries. I kind of feel that, like, managers tend to feel that they have to be always on and always present and know-it-alls as well. So humanizing the manager also starts from a cultural level. The other thing that you did hint at, Daniela, when you were talking about coaching for managers, was having a partner, like having a peer who you can talk to, some trusted partners. And I feel that organizations don't do it intentionally, it's very organic. And Vishal and I have been talking a lot about how do we bring peer support to managers. Like, there is a certain benefit of the collective wisdom of a peer community. And how do we bring that and make that more active? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Oh, I love it. I love where you're going with this. And, leaders, they often co-regulate. They co-regulate with peers. It's this, when you create that space where a bunch of leaders come together around a common challenge, around a common, let's say you have to do a reorg, and you fill in the leaders that will be involved. And now you can choose to obviously say, hey, here's what you need to say, here's what you need to do, go off and do it. Or you can say, let's all come together and let's make sense of what's happening around us. And when you create that space, and that might be just an extra hour, because sometimes people say, oh, we don't have the time. Well, guess what? If you don't take the time now of an hour to do this, it's going to cost you so much more time, because they're having this conversation anyway, but they're having it individually and two together at the, getting water, getting coffee, it's happening just behind your back.
Yeah.
So rather create the space, bring them together so they can co-regulate. Hey, what's this mean? What does this mean for me? What are my fears? I'm afraid of losing my job. There are organizations where, and I've just recently worked with a company where they had a leader who had to fire 20% of the workforce in her organization, and the last person who got fired was her. Oops. Right. So, and she was the last one to find out. So she did all the work, and then when she was done, they're like, "Thanks, sorry, you're out."
Oh my God.
And that's, that's just an example of how things are happening.
Yeah.
That's not 50 years ago. This is now. And there's much worse examples than this. Managers need to co-regulate. And if they don't have the space to do that, they will do it behind your back. And if you fire someone in this way where they can't co-regulate, they can't be held, they are going to speak very poorly about you. Like, they are going to be the damage on the reputation.
Yeah.
They're going to have access to the team members. They're going to have access to peers, to other leaders. And they might not damage the reputation of the whole company, but there's going to be damage that they create because you didn't take that hour. And that space for co-regulation for leaders is so important. So yes, doing something where leaders can come together, even from different companies, because we usually have the same challenges, and it has a different tag on it, but it's the same stuff. And bringing people together through some kind of a organized, I'm just going to call it event or whatever it's going to be, and giving them a topic and saying, here's a challenge, and you can co-regulate with others and see, hey, this is, this feels good to talk about, and there's others who suffer through the same thing. It's like healing. It's such a healing process for human beings to know I'm not alone in this, because you can't talk to your team. But I do want to add, if you are able to create psychological safety, like really create psychological safety and trust, the vulnerability goes both ways. And I remember going back to Vishal's example when you first introduced me and you shared how we know each other. You were vulnerable with me, and I was vulnerable with you too, because I was going through a phase of, for me, not knowing, for how long I would live. I was going through a disease of something for me, difficult. And being able to share what I was going through with my team and telling them, there might be days when I'm not okay. There might be days when I might be off, and they held me too. So, I get goosebumps just sharing this example, because it's not just a manager who always needs to be strong and have everyone's back. If you build that, and I felt that, I honestly, genuinely felt I can let myself go and I can just be with them and not just do, like you said earlier, Raji, right? I can just be. And that was a part of me. That was a part of struggle that I had to go through. And they just held me, and being able to speak about it helped me to process it and helped me to be where I am today, where I can speak about it. It's like, I'm okay, and they were there for me. And I will never forget that. Not just the times when, hey, we had great fun and we succeeded, but it was those times, those difficult times, where I could lean on my team too, where as a human being, not as a manager, as a human being, I needed support. They were there for me more than I could have imagined.
Amazing. Yes. All this.
All this, yeah. If you're when you're in Asia.
Yes. So Vishal, do you want to take it and bring us to the end?
Can I add one more thing? Sorry, something else now that we did these little, signs. Something else I want to add here is, and maybe that ties it back together, but it's these things that build the relationship. Like, Vishal, you and I cannot speak for a year, but you can pick up the phone and text me and say, I need you. I'm going to fly across the world and come and see you. It's such a deep, true bond with these people that I have been able to be intimate with in a way that I can share my fears, my anxieties, my worries, my, the shadow, not the happiness, everything's great, but where I was able to share the dark time like you did, Vishal, right?
Yeah.
It creates this bond, it's beyond anything, and it doesn't need daily check-ins and daily whatever. It's just the moment I see your name pop up or I see your face, or it's just this, my heart is full, and this warmth is just, it's a relationship that I wouldn't want to miss. And those relationships are based on the way that you create leadership for each other. It's not just the leader, the manager of the team, but Vishal was leading me too. And the team that held me, they were leading me too. So the leadership shifted in times when we had each other's back and when someone was stronger than someone else. So it's not just about the formal role of leadership, but that moment when you can let go and you are being held, and it just creates that bond, that deep relationship that is just beyond anything. It's just, it's such a beautiful, beautiful connection.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, after all this time, Daniela, if someone asked us what was the work we actually did, we might be able to recount it, but what we can definitely talk to is how we made each other feel. So
exactly.
Huge plus one to what you just said. No, absolutely. We had two fun closing questions that we wanted to kind of, put out there for you as we kind of wrap up these two segments, and maybe a little bit inspirational, a little bit of advice. If you want to induce a little humor into it, go ahead and do that as well. But, keeping in mind these two topics that we kind of tackle, psychological safety and managing one's energy, for our listeners today, if there is one thing, one behavior that they can change starting effective immediately, what do you think that should be? And the second question for all those CEOs out there or leaders out there, if you could put one message on a billboard for them in the context of today's discussion, what would that be?
Oh, wow. Okay, so going back to the first one, right? Like, what's one thing that you could do? Which one am I going to pick? Probably the stimulus to response is the one that where I see the biggest shift in humans, is that awareness. It's these milliseconds that determine an outcome. These milliseconds that pass so quickly, but if you slow down time, if we had the capacity, the capability to slow down those milliseconds and extend them, I would want every human being, whether a leader or not, just to be able to just dive into these milliseconds and extend them and just go like, halt, right? Like hungry, angry, lonely, tired. How am I doing? What's happening with me right now? What am I feeling? Where's the physical emotion coming from? Where's the emotion coming from? What's triggering me? What's just this understanding, this awareness of what's happening between stimulus and response with me. Learning that would be just, it's going to change your life. Like genuinely going to change your life, because it takes you from being a victim of your reaction to the creator, to choice. And that shift feels incredibly powerful and gives incredible confidence for the context that you're in. So that shift, I would say this is the one thing, is just halt, extend those milliseconds, learn to do that, check in on yourself, become aware, and choose your response. And that kind of leads me to the second one with the billboard. Like in my head, I feel like I'm driving and seeing these old billboards flashing somewhere. And, I would say, your response is the culture. It would say the response is your culture. So it's connected to that, but it's your response creates and determines the culture in your organization or on your team. So choose your response wisely.
Yeah, no, I just had this thought of the billboard with halt in big letters in the middle and response on one side and stimulus on the other. So we can do that too.
Yes, it could be a design, like a little, what comes in and goes out, with halt in the middle. Yes, we should design
exactly. that. Exactly. And it's kind of perfect for someone who's driving on the road, looking at billboards, halt.
Stopping on all the highways. No one's driving. We're like stopping the milliseconds.
Maybe a billboard above a signal or something on the highway, yeah?
Yes, yes. Or by every red light, you know, it's
Yeah.
like halt
No.
for a moment. You've got 1 minute until you can roll, so halt for a second. How are you? Check in.
Vishal, we can rebrand this episode as Halt in the Middle
Halt.
rather than Managing in the
Yes,
Middle.
yes.
No, but Daniela, thank you so much. It's been such an absolute pleasure to chat with you. And, just given the fact that we've been going for almost 2 hours, I mean,
Didn't
one
seem
would
like
think
it.
I'm exhausted, but no. I'm feeling energized with a 2-hour conversation. And that rarely happens for the introvert in me. So thank you.
Thank you
Yeah.
both so much as well, because honestly, just creating the space and having these conversations and sharing this, and I truly hope it's helpful for others. But thank you for creating this space, honestly, because it takes three to do that.
Absolutely. And Daniela, you reiterated that for me, that is, that curiosity is important, whether it's for yourself, like, why am I behaving the way I am versus, and for your team members to understand where they're coming from. And my takeaway is also halt. Whether you halt between your response and stimulus, rather stimulus and response logically, or whether you halt to just do a quick check-in to see how your energy is. And that's my learning for today. So thank you very much.
Amazing.
And we'd love to have you back anytime in the future when you feel like coming and talking about other topics. It's been a pleasure. And for our listeners, thank you for joining us again. And if there's a topic you'd like us to bring back here, let us know. And for questions for Daniela as well. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.